But I do like this Diddy guy. He seems funny. Tell me more about him.
Hello, and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. My name is Ryan, and I will be your host tonight. I'm your host for this entire season, this season of 1971. We have a very special movie tonight. It is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. For a lot of our audience, the only movie that they may have seen or heard of that we're doing. 1971, it was a crazy year, and our ratings this season show it. I'm so excited to do this movie. I've been waiting for it all season. As always, the podcast is also a game show, so our contestants tonight will win points based on witty things they say, compliments to the host, how handsome the host is, etc. I have an incredible lineup. First up, probable winner of last week, editor of no websites, writer of no books. It's Greg.
That's true. Thanks a lot, Ryan. I appreciate that. I don't edit any websites. I have not written any books, and I didn't win last week. Actually, the guest won, dude. But I came in second place, and I felt pretty good about that.
Okay, I mean, you get to choose what you feel good about, and that's one thing, I guess.
I guess it's like the loserest thing you could possibly say. I came in second place, and I feel pretty good about that.
Congratulations to you. Out of how many, by the way?
3, so not last place. Pretty good.
Good job. Our other guest tonight is the editor of ScreenCrush. He is the author of Opposable Thumbs, which we talked about last time he was on the show. His new book, Funny Business, about the early 2000s comedy explosion, is available for pre-order now at matt-singer.net. It is Matt, no dash, singer, no net. Matt, thank you for being here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
You were here for our Buckaroo Banzai show, a classic episode.
That's right. Is it considered a classic episode? Is that true?
It is by Greg and Mike because it's one that I had to leave about 20 minutes into, and they just got to run the show. So
okay. So there's lore attached to it.
Exactly. We picked a night where I had a sick baby, so that's what happened to me.
That'll happen.
And the sheer coincidence of the fact that her name is Buckaroo Banzai, that was mystifying how that happened. Matt, before we get into Willy Wonka, we have to talk about this book that's coming out in October. Let's start with the basic junket questions that you're probably about to have to answer a billion times. Why this topic and why now?
Yeah, I haven't had to answer these questions yet. I better start thinking of answers for them. You're right. I will. You are the first person to ask me that, so you're gonna have the unvarnished answer before I come up with some BS to tell other people, I guess.
Yeah.
I think after I did Opposable Thumbs, and that was a subject that was very near and dear to my heart. I really wanted to write a book about movies. That was sort of tangentially about movies. It was about Siskel and Ebert. But I wanted to kind of do my own movie book. That's pretty much all I read personally. I guess and comic books, but I don't have any artistic skills, so that I don't think that's ever in the cards for me. But I wanted to do a movie book, and my editor on Opposable Thumbs really wanted to work with me again, and we kind of had some meetings and kind of discussed a lot of different topics. And I had thought for a long time that this period that I ended up writing about was kind of an interesting period in comedies. This is roughly like, the first decade of the 21st century. And that kind of crew that, although they hated the name, they were sort of dubbed against their will the frat pack. So this is actors like Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller, and then the filmmakers who are kind of in their orbit. So guys like Judd Apatow and Adam McKay and Todd Phillips. And I just thought it was an interesting period. I love some of the movies. I mean, some of the movies I don't love, but I like a lot of them, and I love some of them. And I thought it was a really interesting period, mostly because As we sit here in 2026, the movie comedy essentially does not exist, at least as a theatrical experience. There's, it's maybe we would say it's an endangered species. It exists very infrequently, to the point where one comes up, people are like, "Can you believe it? They made a comedy and they put it into a movie theater." And so that really was the last period where comedies were kind of big business. They were like blockbusters. They were huge. And so it was kind of interesting to look back at that period and kind of celebrate some of those movies and look at why they were so popular and why the heck comedies became an endangered species after that. So that's kind of the reason to write the book.
I know that they didn't like the term frat pack, but there are rules, and one of those rules is that your pack has to rhyme with rat, and that really limits the options there.
Yes.
I have a feeling that this book, the main thing about it is every movie mentioned is going to have a DVD menu that's been on in my house 9 hours while sleeping. Like I have the Knocked Up, the 40-Year-Old Virgin, every DVD menu is just in my brain.
Yes, I can't say that that's covered in the book, but I mean, I think that would be a fabulous article for someone to write. Maybe not just about these comedies, but the art of the endless loop DVD music. I completely know what you're talking about, and as someone who watched a lot of DVDs back in the day, I still have a physical player, and I do still watch things on them. But I don't. Mine is in like my other room. It's not in my bedroom, so I don't fall asleep to them very often anymore. But there was a period in my life where I fell asleep watching a DVD almost every single night, and you would wake up to that weird music on so many. I'm trying to think if there was one that stands out, but for sure I know exactly the strange, surreal phenomenon of like waking up at like 3 a.m., the lights are off, and that endless music of something is just looping over and over. And there was to me at least, it was always a question of, is this annoying enough to make me get up to turn this off, or will I just lay here and fall back asleep and wake up every hour listening to it?
It also loops as awkwardly as possible. Like it comes to a screeching halt, and then you hear like ring as the disc spins up again, and then
it would often be like a fade out, but then it would go.
This was also a time, people would never believe it, but this is also the time that one version of the movie would come out in the theaters, and then you'd get like the rude version that would come to block, but like you could also get the unrated version, which is they would give you 15 additional terrible minutes of like vamping by the actors and maybe like an additional boob. And then it was like the wild unrated version.
The version they wouldn't let you see in theaters. Now, that is something that is in some ways discussed in the book.
Dope.
The other thing that those discs would have, which are in some cases, unless you own these discs, some of which are still like kind of in print and available, some of which are not, is there are interesting extras that are kind of lost to history. And funny extras as well, like the Adam McKay, Will Ferrell world. They would make these commentary tracks that are almost, in some cases, they are as funny as the movies, and more strange than the movies. Like there is one version of the Talladega Nights commentary, the Blu-ray, I guess. And I'm not sure. It has a goofy name. So that's another phenomenon here, is that the special editions would be like the, like whackety smackety version.
Yeah.
Like the Talladega Nights would be like the if you ain't first, you're last edition. Like they would have crazy names. But one edition, and I don't know offhand which one it was, has a commentary track that is essentially like a, however long the movie is, it is a that long endless improv. They're not really doing any actual information about the movie. They are pretending that they are recording the 25th anniversary track. So they are pretending that it is the year, if it was 2005, let's say, they're pretending it's 2030. And it's Will Ferrell, and it's Adam McKay playing his own son, because supposedly Adam McKay died in like a tragic, like he was eaten by a shark. And then they have guests come in throughout the movie who are all like they're all themselves, but weird. So it'd be like, like John C. Reilly is like a militiaman, and someone else is like a senator, and someone else is like Michael Clark Duncan maybe is like a cult leader now. It is unhinged, and it's just amazing. And if you are a fan of of weird, endless improv, it's incredible. It's a work of art in a very demented way. And yeah, that's another thing that just simply does not exist anymore. No one would bother to do it. No one would release it. But yes, that's another thing I kind of covet about this period.
And I mean, like, that's to say nothing about, was it Wake Up San Diego? Where they were able to make an entire movie,
Yep.
a different movie.
Yeah, that's I think you have the name right. Yeah, Wake Up San Diego. So that's also from certain versions of the Anchorman, probably originally DVD. Now I think it is still available on Blu-ray or 4K in certain versions, but it's basically like because they shot, and this is definitely something I talk about in the movie, is the technique of how they made it, where they had scripted scenes, but then they would do what they called alts. They would basically, Adam McKay would be standing behind the monitor and just shouting things at people to try, and and anyone was welcome to try their own thing too, but he would often offer suggestions. And they wound up with so much good material that they couldn't fit it all into one movie. And so they basically made a sequel out of outtakes. The movie, if you watch it, it's presented as if it is the next chapter in the life of Ron Burgundy, but it's very clearly like alternate takes, because it's like it's set in the same timeline, and like the same things are happening, and they added a voiceover to kind of explain it. And it makes very little sense as a sequel, but it has some really funny parts. It also has this huge. There was more story in the original version, including a subplot involving like terrorists, almost like one battle after another. They rob banks and things. It's like the something alarm clock is the name of the group, and it has some famous comedians in it. They eventually cut the whole subplot out, and so they used it as sort of the story as much as there is one in this secondary feature, which is not as good as Anchorman, but is funnier than 45% of all other comedies ever made, just because of who's in it and what they do. And there's a couple of sequences that are just absolutely amazing in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you were an actor around that time, then it's possible that you were in every single one of those movies and were just cut out of all of them. And I don't think they were shooting on digital back then. Think about all the film price, like how expensive that would have been. In all your research, was there a movie that you were less familiar with that was kind of a sleeper or surprise, one that you hadn't seen a million times, or
a semi-pro, a Blades of Glory, a dodgeball?
I mean, unfortunately for me, a pathetic loser with no life. I mean, I saw both of those movies in the theater, and I loved both of them when they came out. Semi-Pro, I think, is a very underrated movie.
I agree.
I've always loved Semi-Pro. I think that's probably. It might be the best Will Ferrell movie that's not, an Adam McKay, because it's not Adam McKay. And so I've always thought that movie is so funny. That's the one where it's like the ABA. It's like loosely based on the real ABA of the 1970s. And it's very silly and nonsensical, but he's like the owner of the team and also its star player. He's not good, but he's the star attraction. And he's also a musical star. He's like a one-hit wonder.
It's like Buckaroo Banzai.
He's a bit of a Buckaroo Banzai type.
That's the movie that taught me how serious it is to call somebody a jive turkey. Like before that,
never do it, Ryan.
I won't. That was in quotes. I was not calling either one of you a jive turkey. Just
I know.
There's no Lectroid aliens in Semi-Pro, but otherwise it's very similar. But yeah, very funny movie. What was it? Oh, Blades of Glory. Another a very underrated, very funny movie. Makes, it's again, very silly, very absurd, but has some great sequences. There is, for my money, one of the all-time, perhaps in the history of cinema, maybe one of the couple of funniest chase scenes is in Blades of Glory, which is the end of the movie. Will Ferrell is being chased by Will Arnett, and they are chasing each other. This is a movie about competitive figure skaters, pairs figure skaters, and they're having a chase on ice skates. And it is really funny. And it builds to this point where they're like running in ice skates on solid ground, and they can't, because that's impossible. They're just falling all over the place. And it's just an opportunity for Will Ferrell, Will Arnett to like flop all over the place. Very, very funny. I'm sure there maybe was. I think for me, the things that I discovered most were things like that Talladega Nights commentary track I mentioned. I had never heard that before. And listening to that, I was like, God, this is one, this is hilarious. And two, I just miss commentary tracks, which I always loved. Often that was the thing I was falling asleep to when I would wake up to the DVD menu music playing endlessly. I would fall asleep to commentary tracks. There is, I will spoil this about the book. There is, much like my Siskel and Ebert book, which had kind of a appendix of movies that they loved that were they weren't the masterpieces, the classics that everyone remembers, the Do the Right Things, the Pulp Fictions. These were movies that they gave 2 thumbs up that weren't as famous, that have kind of faded away a little bit. I liked doing that so much that I made a companion piece in this book. There's the buried treasures of the frat pack era appendix. So there's the Talladega Nights commentary is in there, and then there's, I can't remember if it's 20 or 25, but there's quite a few more other weird things. There's TV pilots, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of weird, interesting things that I put in there, that just things that I really loved, that would qualify as not the Anchormans, not the 40-year-old versions of that period that everyone has seen, but are worth seeking out.
Did you cover what I would say in 2026 is one of the wildest casts ever put together? The movie Get Him to the Greek.
I'm sure it is mentioned. It does, there are certain movies that have that are covered extensively, and then there's certain movies that are not, get a mention. I did rewatch it. It certainly is mentioned in there. I mean, it is without question one of the most cursed casts in the history of cinema. And so, it's in there, but it's not like it didn't get really, it's not covered extensively.
Yeah, that movie may never be watched again.
Yeah,
I mean, I watched it. It's not like they pulled it from circulation. If you want to see the most cursed cast in history, you're more than welcome to. I watched it. It's certainly not one of the great films of that period. It's got a couple of funny moments if you don't mind watching one of the most, I think that's the only way to put it. It is just genuinely a cursed cast.
The Olympics have canceled.
Yeah, you just go look at the Wikipedia page and you're going to be like, it's like one jump scare after another as you go through it.
I just scroll down to the controversies tab here. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of the people in it is Diddy, and he's basically playing, he's playing like the nightmarish version of himself, essentially. He's not playing Diddy, but he plays like a monstrous record executive, and played as this goof, like, oh, isn't this funny how mean he is and how horrible he is to everyone and doing these horrible things. So that may not play quite as well in
less fun.
2026. Yeah.
I mean, and what a way to test the gods, to just be like, I'm getting away with this so much that I can just do this on film.
Right. I can make fun of myself and make fun of my image. Yeah.
One more question before we get out of here. And this is super junkety too. So prep for this one, because you're going to hear this question in so many sad, lost voices of, is it ever possible to have anything like this again?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the last chapter, or like kind of the epilogue of the book is trying to answer that question. And I talked to a lot of kind of, I talked to some like modern filmmakers and modern comedy people about that. And so, different people said different things. Some people flat out said, I kind of think that it's over, at least as specifically like theatrical comedies. Obviously, people enjoy comedy. In some ways, comedy is bigger than ever. It's just is the theatrical comedy bigger? No, it's kind of vanished. But think about how many people now are doing comedy online. Think about how much bigger stand-up specials are now than they were at this time. Netflix, every streaming service is just filled with stand-up specials and with comedy.
How I think it could maybe make a comeback if going to the movies sucked less. I think that it's just going to the movie is such a terrible experience now. You have to sit through half an hour of commercials / trailers. It's too loud. Nobody behaves themselves. Everything's too expensive. If it was just a cheap, easy thing to do again, I think then people might go see movies that were on that level. But now it's you only want to see these big, grand, epic, loud, actiony movies. Otherwise, it's not worth it to subject yourself to that awful experience.
And another thing, why is the wind so cold? When I was a kid, wind was warm sometimes. God damn it!
I mean, it is true. What you're saying is true. I mean, on the other hand, I'm looking at what's going on at the movie theater lately, and it's people seem to be going to the movie theater when there's something they want. I mean, the new Scream movie, as we're recording this, just made more money in its opening weekend than any Scream movie ever did in its opening weekend. And it stinks. It's not very good. But, for the right thing, people will come out. Now, to your point, maybe that's, that qualifies as one of these big event movies. It's a sequel. It's IP. So that maybe that's the reason why. And it didn't matter if it was a crummy sequel because people, love Scream.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to see some indications to me that movie theaters aren't quite as dead as I maybe thought. I mean, it just seems like when the right movie comes out, people are going to see it. So it's just a matter of, can someone make a comedy that people really, really want to go see in a theater? And maybe the time for that is over. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I like to be optimistic about these things. But it'll be interesting because, the book doesn't come out for 6 months. It's will there be a comedy movie that comes out in the next 6 months that actually does well? It would be interesting if that did happen for my book. On the other hand, if nothing does, maybe that would be better because it would kind of be more timely and make the subject matter more pressing. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that it is generational and the generation kind of between us or after us, just maybe a COVID or whatever, streaming got used to not going to the theaters. And it's possible that there will be another generation that thinks it's awesome, But Scream 7, as bad as I heard it was, doesn't surprise me as much because it's a franchise and it's a horror movie and you see it first weekend or you get it spoiled. I remember a couple years ago when Billy Eichner made Bros, and he pimped that for months saying this is our return, folks, please go, and no one did, and he got mad at America.
Okay, wait, I got it. That guy that just made that movie Iron Lung? Mm-hmm. He's an influencer. If you want to get comedies to perform in the theaters again, you have to build them around an influencer, not just starring an influencer, but made by an influencer.
This sounds worse. I'd rather have nothing.
But that would get the crowd. I think that's what would get the crowd out there because they're responsive, and I think that they would want to support an influencer or whatever. It's just it's not going to be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, they're loyal too. I mean, I saw we got to go. We have to talk about Willy Wonka, but I saw a poster for Nate Bargatze in a Mr. Mom thing at the movie theater, and it felt like I was in the 80s. But that's not going to do it. That's not going to get people back.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now because I have seen, because you're talking about influencers, a subject I'm not really all that well versed in, and I'm trying to find the movie that I had seen because it had Logan Paul in it. Okay, here it is. Does Logan Paul count as an influencer? I mean, he's social media.
No, definitely.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so he made this movie Airplane Mode in 2019. Genuinely one of the most unbearable experiences I've ever seen. So
okay, maybe not.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm on board with this solution. Maybe if it's this or the death of comedy, maybe we're better off with the death of comedy.
What if we go with I Show Speed, Ryan? That's a name I've heard.
I haven't seen him in any movies. So.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about now. Okay, here's someone who I think is funny. Gene Wilder. Greg, let's start with you. What was your week like? Are you a big Willy Wonka guy? And does this movie hold up?
Okay, this week was so interesting for me, Ryan, because if you said, Greg, how many times have you seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? I would say countless times, brother. But I saw this movie a lot as a... Excuse me?
It's just the second half? Sorry, I thought you might have had my childhood.
That sums it up quite effectively. Like, as a kid, I think I would like check in with the first hour of this movie.
Yeah.
And then, and so like, I don't think I've ever seen this movie until this week. Like, I don't think I've ever sat down and watched from beginning to end Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I'm all excited like somebody who's never seen it before. I also had no idea what was going on when I was a kid. Like, I had no idea what it was about, what it was critiquing, and I had no idea how like little it explains itself. I found myself spending so much of the time being like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I don't even mean like the things that are super duper trippy in the movie. I just mean like, what's the explanation? Why is he doing this? What's going on? I really enjoyed watching it this week. I had a high opinion of it before, but now I have like I feel like a more informed opinion.
Well, watching the movie will help that for sure.
Yeah, dude. If you actually see a movie, suddenly you're like, okay, I have new vistas of opinions about this movie. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a great week, and this typical 71 unusual pacing, very trippy. Movie seems outwardly hostile to its audience at several points. But I was just like swept up in the craziness.
Matt, you're a dad. My kid is 5 and scared shitless over everything. Like, we made it 3 seconds into A New Hope before the letters were crawling at a speed that she could not handle. And so, like, she can't watch anything. Was this a big movie to you as a kid? And what about now as a dad?
Huge movie for me as a kid. I don't know how many times I watched it, but it was many, many times. One of my favorites. Kind of notorious in my family growing up because I have a younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me. And there's like a famous story in our family that we watched it. I don't know. You know, the one thing I don't know is, and I should have found this out in advance, and I'm sorry I didn't, was at some point in our childhoods, we're watching this movie, and we're sitting there, and the Blueberry Girl scene happens, and he freaks the F out. He is scared to death. He's screaming. He runs out of the room. He's horrified. This is like we subjected him to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. Like this is like
not the movie, but the actual massacre.
Yeah. Call Child Protective Services. These people are abusing me for the Blueberry Girl. And he was so horrified, and it like traumatized him. And for a while, all I would have to do to upset him would be like, I could say like, I'm gonna make you watch Willy Wonka, and he would be upset, or I could just be like, Blueberry Girl. And
would you ever pretend Would you ever pretend it was happening to you, Matt? Like, here goes. Awesome.
I don't remember doing that, but I mean, it's possible.
That would torture the hell out of him. Consider it.
Oh, I used it. I used it so much, and maybe that's part of why I have such fond memories of the film itself. It's just that it was this way to get at my brother potentially. But yeah, so big as a kid, and I have 2 girls. They are 10 and 8, and we have watched the movie. And actually, we've watched it recently. Because they are in a kids theater production of Willy Wonka that they literally just started working on like this week. Whoa. So it's so Willy Wonka is very big in my house right now. So this, in fact, I think when you asked me about this and first invited me and I picked this movie, that hadn't happened yet. So it's like, you've caught me at the perfect Wonka moment here in my life, really.
For me, for my little brother, the Blueberry Girl was the sister upstairs, or the bedridden sister in Pet Sematary. If I brought that lady up, then my brother would start crying immediately, and I used it a lot. I cannot wait to dive into this movie with you guys, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's hard to imagine a childhood without Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in it. That's exactly what you would have to do if you were a kid in 1970, however. There's no other way around it. When Mel Stewart's beloved classic was released, it was a bit of a flop. It was the 57th highest grossing movie in 1971, a year where only 55 movies were released. Over the decades, thanks to almost constant airing on television, however, Willy Wonka has become one of the most loved live-action family films of all time, maybe second only to The Wizard of Oz. We all know the story. Charlie Bucket, the poorest kid in Poor Town, wins a lottery to tour the town's local giant chocolate factory. He joins 4 of the worst people of all time and their children on a journey that includes the Oompa Loompas, a chocolate river, golden goose eggs, and all of the chocolate a little German kid can eat. The real story here, however, is Gene Wilder's performance as Willy Wonka, played so iconically that even Johnny Depp and Timothée Chalamet can't hold a candle to it. Taste Buds, I want to get to the overall sense of the movie that's being created here from Mel Stewart, I call him Mel, from Gene Wilder, from Roald Dahl, whose script was turned in, rewritten, he got pissed and, disowned the movie. So let's start here. I ask you this. Does the movie wrap despair in whimsy? Is it a crayon drawing of a cultural wasteland? How is it balancing frivolity and sadness? And ultimately, Greg, are we left feeling good about the world being portrayed here?
Yeah, the tone of it and its take on the world itself was something that I kept vacillating between. Like, it has a very cynical, almost nihilistic take on the world. People are selfish and almost like born fallen, like that kids are kind of evil and that it is the job of adults to make them good, and that we live in a fallen world because adults have shirked that duty or something, and that like Willy Wonka is here to mete out justice or punishment or something, but like in a very fun way. It's like someone throwing confetti in your face at 90 miles an hour. He, as fun and happy as he is, he's also prone to like almost righteous rage. There are 2 things I didn't remember, and there's 2 different times where he's just absolutely screaming at the top of his lungs, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of emotional depth to all of this, like between everything being so funny and kind of like a prank and someone like screaming about the sins of children.
What about you, Matt? Do you think that the whimsy is outweighed by the darkness, or vice versa?
No, I mean, one of the things that I love about this movie now is that it is such a unique tone for a children's film. And, like having kids, you watch a lot of kids' movies, new ones, old ones, and most of them suck. I mean, they're horrible. And
they're samey. It's all the same for the bad ones.
Very true, yes. And they're very, very candy-coated, no pun intended here. They're very... just very neutered, very, they're just...
And do they treat kids like idiots?
Some of them do. Some don't, but certainly that is something that does happen. And like they just kind of wrap everything in bubble wrap, and it's just no sharp edges, nothing too out there.
Because if this movie is like for kids, it's the way it speaks to kids is like, you see how the world really is, kids, right? Like, right. Just because you're kids doesn't mean you don't see like that. Most of these people are assholes, and most of these
people suck. Yeah. Life sucks. And I mean, one of the things that I did rewatch it last night for the umpteenth time. I mean, this is one of the movies that I have seen probably more than most movies in my life. It's got to be in like the top 10 or 20 most watched movies of my life, because I did watch it so much as a kid, and now I've watched it a bunch of times with my kids. And I was sitting watching it this time, and it's like, this movie is a slasher movie for children.
Yes.
I mean, it really struck me structurally that is what it is. I mean, it predates any real slasher movie except maybe Psycho, which is not that structure. But if you talk about like a Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street style slasher, you have a crazy lunatic psychopath at the center who has a very distinctive look, who has a bunch of, young people in his sights, and he's picking them off one by one until there's only one, most pure, most innocent person left.
Picking them off.
Yeah, we mentioned Scream, and the rules of Scream are always don't break the rules of life or you will be punished by Jason Voorhees or whatever. don't have sex, don't do this, don't say you'll be
Don't
right
sin,
back.
basically. And these kids are all sin.
Don't screw up. Yeah, exactly. And these kids are monsters.
It also reminds me a little bit of like Dracula or something, in that like he brings into his domain, he brings in people under, I'm going to argue over the course of tonight, false pretenses, because I don't believe that the tickets are distributed in a random fashion, because he very specifically seems to be picking out people and then constructing an experience based on their foibles, and then subjecting them to like a temptation that they cannot resist to teach them or to punish them or something.
Yes.
And
that
so
makes me
like,
want to know what my chocolate factory would be.
Willy Wonka he's diabolical.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I was thinking that I don't know that I've ever kind of thought quite so directly before was I'm watching the end. This amazing ending. I love the ending of this movie. I get choked up watching him hug Charlie. What happened to the man who got everything he ever wanted? He lived happily ever after. I'm getting choked up. They fly off. The happy music, which is one of the most has these amazing songs, which are so sweet and saccharine and sentimental in this movie about this child murderer. And I'm thinking, as the glass elevator's floating away, I'm like, I still don't know with certainty that Grandpa Joe and Charlie make it out of that elevator alive. I think there's a better than zero chance that Wonka murders them before that elevator gets to the ground.
Or
It's maybe not a high percentage, but it's there because he is so untrustworthy. Even to the end of this movie, even that scene, which I'm telling you, I'm getting verklempt watching it for the millionth time. This scene, seconds before, he's like, I don't know if we're going to make it out of this chocolate factory. We're going
And that's
through
what
the
excites
roof.
him. Like, he is aroused by that.
Yeah, and you believe that he doesn't know what's going to happen, and he's excited by that fact.
It's less like who should take over my chocolate factory and more like who should I, instead of murdering, will commit murder-suicide with. Like, this is the end of me.
To continue my slasher thing, there's a very, like, Jigsaw element to this, where Jigsaw always has proteges that he's training to be the next Jigsaw, and in the later sequels, all these, like, false Jigsaws are, like, fighting over the right to be the real Jigsaw. I'm thinking, I'm just saying this out loud for the first time, going like, this is very Wonka and Charlie.
Imagine this, because what's so interesting about this movie is that it's called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which I'm sure like there's reasons beyond just.
I read about that,
but it centers Willy Wonka in the title, which is a big shift from the book. But then the movie's not really about Willy Wonka, and it causes us to wonder a lot about like what is Willy Wonka is like. Because there's a version of this story where he is like cursed to be Willy Wonka, and he has to bring somebody
like a genie
in.
or a Santa Claus.
Yeah, and he has to bring someone in to take the mantle of Willy Wonka, and he's done this for so long. And it's like it constructs a weird world in which he is something almost supernatural. Like there is a very supernatural feeling to him. And there's that moment where he's like, I've never pressed this button. And Charlie's like, I'll do it. And it's like, kid, that might have been the whole con. You have to get somebody, you have to lure somebody in to press this button.
Yeah.
And Matt, I noticed when he goes up through the glass, Charlie's like, what's going to happen to us? And he's like, I don't know. Okay, what's going to happen to the people below? The shower of glass from the sky. Everything in this is so creepy and unsettling because
But like, he's a billionaire. That's sort of like he just does what he wants. And so I think that psychopathy is hitting too. Because we're almost out of time for this one, I want to talk to you guys about our good friend Mel. One of the craziest things about this movie is that outside of Gene Wilder, the filmmaker, the cast, like this is it, sort of. Like this is their one and only claim to fame. And watching this movie this week, especially because we are so deep in 1971 movies and we just know what they look like now, and it's like, let's make it look low budget even if it's not. This movie feels more like it's from 1961 to me. Just the way that the camera works, the fade ins and fade outs, the musicality of it. I mean, we're post Bonnie and Clyde versus Dr. Dolittle, like that's why the movies changed so much in this year. But like, did this feel like a throwback to you even if you were watching it in 1971?
Well, you know what we used to say, Ryan, but we just don't have a frame of reference for it, so we haven't said it a ton with this year. But we used to say 1971 is like 1960 11.
Right.
Like, and that's what this movie really feels like. Like the freak out on the boat, that feels like a particularly like 60s era, like the whole language of the freak out and the whole way in which it's shot and presented. And I feel like the color palette is really more like what we think of.
I would say even with the color palette even earlier, when you look at like the buckets in their home, like that looks like a John Ford movie. Like it is just shot as like old school studio Hollywood as you can. And maybe it's great because instead of Mel Stewart being this guy who is a whiz with the camera or whatever, he's creating on screen all of this whimsy and fancy. But like it just doesn't feel like anything we've watched. It feels out of time in a way that I can only say now is perfect, even if he is a flawed filmmaker, you know?
I mean, the color story of this movie is amazing. Like the Charlie's house, the colors there, where the only bright color at all is Charlie's sweater and then the red of the scarf that he's going to get. And the effect of him bursting in and like that red bursting into that environment. And then the way in which that is in tension with like how colorful the factory is. I really like the coloring in this movie is something that like is the most exciting part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now. I mean, I don't know about the cam. You know, you're talking about the way he uses the camera or the movement of the camera, but I think that the comparing it to a John Ford movie in terms of maybe the sets or things like that, I think what we're getting at is that, and I do think was a very canny and deliberate choice was to make the movie a little timeless and out of time and almost give it this like fairy tale quality. I mean,
I read that they didn't want cars on the streets because that would date it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about that last scene and they're flying over the town, and this never bothered me as a kid at all. But I'm looking at this town going like, where is this? This is like, I mean, I know they shot it, I believe, in Munich.
Yeah.
And so it is, what was then like West Germany was where they set up and filmed it. And it definitely has, it almost has like a Disneyland fake town quality
for
to
sure.
it. Like almost like a storybook town. And, Charlie and his family, they don't have, they're all American. Gene Wilder, American. They don't have English accents. But for some reason, I think I just kind of internalized like, oh, they're in England or something. Because it doesn't look at all like America, like not even a little bit.
They live in like a storybook land. Yeah, I thought it was England too, but they never say where it is. There's like there's different places are talked about, so like there is in America, there is in England, but I think they take pains to never quite say where it is located.
Right, but I think ultimately, when you look at it now, 50 whatever years later, it just has this kind of timeless, out of time Fantasyland kind of quality that I think works for the movie. I mean, I have shown less old movies to my children where they go, this movie is old. They complain about that. And they don't complain about that with this movie at all. Like they might ask, when was this made? They may make note of the fact that it is older, but they don't complain or dismiss it because it is older in a way that I have seen them do for movies from like the 1980s, for example.
Yeah, I'm going to assume the one they complained about that felt old was when you showed them Get Him to the Greek. And I don't know if that's appropriate.
They didn't like that.
Yeah.
They're like, but I do like this Diddy guy. He seems funny. Tell me more about him.
On that note, we have to take a break. When we come back, trivia. All right, gentlemen, it's trivia time. You know the rules. Answer after I'm done with the question. Ring in by saying your name, and you will get a chance to win a point. This is like the make or break segment for the show, guys, so do good. Question the first. What did Gene Wilder demand to do in the movie, or he would not take the part? Matthew.
He demanded the introduction with the cane, that he had to walk in and pretend to be like infirm and then lose his cane and do the tumble entrance. That was his idea. He demanded to do that.
That is correct. I have tried to do that, and I have injured myself on the somersault and then had a limp afterwards, so be careful. Number 2, Mrs. TV says that the musical code for entering the chocolate room is Rachmaninoff. Who's it actually by?
Greg.
Beethoven.
Incorrect. Matt, you got one?
I honestly, I can't wait to find out. I always assumed it was Rachmaninoff. I'm a Philistine.
Just another way why these adults are terrible. It's Mozart. What a stupid woman. Number 3, what was different about one of the 10 actors cast as an Oompa Loompa?
Greg.
Greg.
He wasn't really a little person?
Nope. Matt?
I don't know. Again, I'm looking forward to finding this out myself.
She was a woman.
Ah.
Can you believe that? Yeah, an Oompa Loompa. What flavor was the actual wallpaper the kids had to lick?
Greg.
Greg.
Just wallpaper flavor?
It was wallpaper flavored, yeah. They said they hated it.
I always assumed it didn't have a flavor.
That's what snozberries taste like, you little jerks. They're awful.
Yeah, the Willy Wonka is just based on the director, who was just as mean to the kids. Which child actor actually kept their gobstopper from the set and took it home?
Matt.
Matt.
I don't know the actor's name,
character.
but I think it's Veruca Salt.
It's 100% Veruca Salt.
Yeah.
I want it now, Daddy.
What's the one thing that Veruca Salt can't fight?
Greg.
Dr.
Pepper.
Nope. Salt, pepper, okay.
Because they team up, Ryan. 2 panels of fighting, and then they team up to take down Steak.
What's the one thing Veruca can't fight?
Veruca Salt cannot fight.
Gravity?
Incorrect. It's the Seether. Can't fight the Seether. That was a 1992 song by Veruca Salt. Let's move on. Veruca Salt says she wants a bean feast. I'm sorry, what's that now?
Greg. You have like an array of different beans. Pinto. Okay. Maybe, yeah, beans are great.
See, that's got to be why it's so British in our heads, or one of the reasons, right? That sounds British as hell.
Yeah, dude, like the full English breakfast has beans, right?
It's
They're like,
just beans.
can't start the day off without baked beans.
That's true.
Who made that decision? What movie is attached to another famous bean feast mentioned in an all-time tweet?
Greg. Oh, shit, what was it, though? Cars 2.
It is
where
Cars
the guy
2.
brings the beans and then spills them and is mocked by the youths of Alaska.
That's correct. Name something that would be in the montage played during the boat ride if the scene took place in 2026. Anything, guys?
I know, Greg. Ice
It's
Age
hard
is
when the answer
barging
could be
through a
anything.
door.
Yeah, we'll take ice.
I was trying to say not something upsetting, and I was like, well, there's only upsetting things now.
Yeah.
So.
10th question. Why does everyone who says the movie is scary say it's because of the boat ride, and they never mention the fucking tinker?
Greg. Because they didn't realize that in the framing of the shot, he just like, it's all butcher knives coming at you as soon as he comes in.
I think that goes to that whole, I know the second half so much better than the first, is I forget the tinker's there, and it scares me every time.
What is he even doing? Like,
what filmmaking magic was used to make the shrinking room shrink?
Greg.
It's
just the forced perspective of the room. It's just like haunted house stuff. Just an optical illusion.
Matt?
Which room are we talking about?
Where they go through the hall and he like the doors start to shrink, but Willy stays the same size.
Oh, I don't know. I would have thought forced perspective also. I don't know.
No, they built a shrinking room. It just gets smaller. They built that. Number 12. What's the better movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Wonka?
Greg. Oh, yeah, I see what you're doing here. Wonka.
Matt, is that true?
I mean, that's the one I would have picked, yeah.
Okay. Greg gets points. What is the segment most often cut from TV broadcasts?
That's a good question.
Greg. The classroom stuff with the Mr. Thurkettle or whatever his name is.
That would be devastating. I love that guy.
I know.
Those are
That's
great
incorrect.
scenes. I am going to guess. Boy, I'm really racking my brain because I am sure that I watched this movie so much on television. I'm gonna guess the boat part because it's so disturbing.
It's Cheer Up Charlie.
Oh,
even the
of
TV
course.
viewers are like, no, get that shit out of here.
I was like, I can't even think of anything that should be cut. It's all perfect. Then as soon as you say that, it's like, oh, yeah.
Allegedly, all 6 members of Monty Python were interested in the role of Willy Wonka. For 1 point, name one of them.
Greg.
Greg.
John Cleese.
Okay, Matt.
Eric Idle.
Greg.
Those are the only ones I can name, right?
Matt, can you take this down?
Terry Jones, Terry Gilliam.
Oh, yeah, those guys.
Graham Chapman.
One more.
There's one more. I can see him in my mind. Michael Palin.
That is correct.
Nice.
Okay.
But Greg, you got your one, so great job. What 1972 movie, which went on to win 8 Oscars, moved into the Munich studio as Willy Wonka was packing up?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, The Godfather wasn't shot in Munich, was it?
No.
No.
Cabaret.
I don't know.
Cabaret. That makes a lot of sense.
That does make sense.
Mr. Saul offers a £1 bonus to his workers if they find a golden ticket. What is that in 2026 US dollars?
Oh, I was wondering this. I should have looked this up.
That would've been
£1, Ryan?
£1 in 1971.
Greg. 25 American US dollars, Ryan.
Matt, can you get closer than that?
I was going to say that sounds like a pretty good guess. I'm going to say $40.
$20.01. Greg takes
Wow.
the point.
See, 25 I thought was a pretty good guess. So.
He said to them, I will give you $20 if you find this, and they lose their minds. That's
I
the
know,
kind
they're
of
so excited, yeah.
Because, Ryan, I'm assuming that he pays some of them in peanuts.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're working for peanuts. Violet's father is a used car salesman, one of the lowest things you can be, as proved in what later Dahl novel?
Oh. Matt, is that Matilda?
It is Matilda.
Another one my kids love. The musical.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Netflix one. Another 1971 movie.
Netflix on Disney. Yeah, sorry.
Another 1971 movie, A Man in the Wilderness, was also remade in the 2000s. This one won 3 Oscars. A Man in the Wilderness with Richard Harris, I want to say, who's the guy who gets the shit kicked out of him by Gene Hackman in Unforgiven.
I don't know the original movie, so it's hard to guess how it was remade. What year did the remake come out?
Ooh, I'm going to say 2015. 3 Oscars, including Best Actor.
Oh, The Revenant?
It's The Revenant.
Oh, nice.
And finally, Petrana Radulovic ranked every candy scene in the 3 movies, all 69 of them. Name the top 5 confections from the 1971 film according to Petrana. So there's 5 options here. You guys can take turns. Who's going first?
I'll go first, Ryan.
Greg?
I'll volunteer to go first.
You're a soldier.
The super big gummy bears.
No. Matt?
Okay, well, I fucked it up right away.
Number 1 has to be the Everlasting Gobstopper.
That is on the list. Greg?
Yeah.
The cream on the mushroom.
That is on the list. She said it looks so delicious.
It does. It looks good.
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking that looks horrifying. Okay.
3 more.
I'm going to say the fizzy lifting drink.
That is her number 1.
Wow, okay.
2 more, Greg. What do you got?
Chocolate River chocolate, Ryan.
That's disgusting. And no, that's not on the list. Matt.
Before the kid falls in it, Ryan.
Oh, before the kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think what other things. I guess maybe I always think, and this is maybe just a personal thing. I've always felt, yes, Wonka vision is very impressive, but screw the little bar of chocolate. Give me the gigantic
Why'd you shrink
Wonka
that?
Vision chocolate. So that would be my guess. The giant chocolate.
That's got to be expensive to make that whole thing. And then
Yes.
No, that's not on the list. One,
Okay.
Greg, last chance. 1 we mentioned tonight. 1 you're never gonna get. So
For me, I'm gonna give one for the Greg heads. I'm gonna say when they give him the gift Wonka chocolate, I don't know what if they say what type it is, but it looks like it's like a moon pie or something. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't get a golden ticket." And he's like, "Here, let's all share this." And he like busts it open. That's the best looking treat in the entire movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Was
one
the
more.
other one the lickable wallpaper?
It's
The lickable wallpaper also looked.
We did mention that. When you said we mentioned it, so I was like, which ones have we mentioned? Yeah, we mentioned
And-
that. I mean, that is cool. Certainly when you're a kid, that does seem extremely, extremely cool.
I just have a thing. Like I shiver if I'm even like licking an envelope to close it. Like I could not put my tongue.
Also,
on that.
wallpaper's like not a thing anymore. But when we grew up, like houses did have wallpaper, but that's like you don't see that anywhere anymore.
I think
It's
wallpaper
very
only
true.
exists like lining drawers where you keep your
Yes.
silverware. That's about the only place. The final one, and Petrana's on one with this one, is I want to say Veronica, Bubblegum Girl, Blueberry Girl.
Violet.
Violet. Yeah.
She's turning violet. Her dad picks up a big gummy rope, and Petrana's like, that looks so good. Yeah.
Gummy rope.
Yeah, he kind of like bites it in the middle. It's clearly not candy. It's made out of like plastic or whatever, but it is.
Yeah.
I do know what the shot you're talking about.
And he died of plastic poisoning just 2 years later.
Yes.
That is trivia. Excellent work, all of you. You guys quadrupled your score, so congratulations. When we come back, more about Willy Wonka. All right, gentlemen, we're back. Each child is punished for a personality flaw. We talked about the whole serial killer thing, which I read today on Letterboxd, and when Matt was saying it, I was like, he's stealing something from Letterboxd. It was his Letterboxd. Are these punishments framed as moral lessons, satire, or cruelty? What is the film saying about discipline and social conditioning? And what I want to do here, Matt, we'll start with you, is get into, let's take the chocolate factory out and let's do the parent-child relationship. Like, who bears the burden of guilt here?
Oh boy, we're getting okay. I'm trying to think who I would. I mean, I think that I'm also sort of thinking about the book too, because it's been a little while now. It's been a couple of years, but I had never actually, as much as I've said I loved this movie, I never read the book as a kid, and I read it with my kids a few years ago, and I feel like, I mean, we've talked about the kind of, I don't know the words we've used, like cruelty, misanthropic view of that the film has of the world. A lot of that comes from the book and from Roald Dahl, who, by all accounts, was like a terrible, terrible person, just like awful, miserable, mean, cruel. Like all kinds of
huge anti-Semite.
Yeah. There's that too.
Litterbug.
He littered.
Let's put it. Let's put it this way. He would have been a great addition to the cast of Get Him to the Greek. He would have fit right in that movie. So, but it's like, it's a book for children, and we've talked about how it doesn't talk down to children, which is something I absolutely agree. But I do also think that it is kind of depicting the children as monsters.
Yeah.
Veruca is, I mean, I think it's and she's just a fascinatingly just a monster, just a horrible monster. And you can blame that, this is a good question. I mean, it's like a question maybe for a child psychologist, not for me, an idiot. Like how much of this is a nature versus a nurture thing? Because her father is so, okay, Veruca, yeah, whatever you want, darling. Like it's not just that he's like, giving into her. He seems terrified of her.
Yeah.
Which is a fun aspect of that character.
Yeah, and I think that, like, before we blame being rich as the sin, it's the sin of never hearing no, that anybody would become a monster. Like, if that was my dad, I would be worse than I am now, believe it or not, And that kind of goes across the whole thing of Mike TV is never told to turn off the TV. Augustus Gloop is never told, hey, maybe grab a carrot or something. So it's like the kids are in charge, and how could they not be terrible with that,
It's interesting because the movie seems to view children as like inherently kind of flawed, and that it is the role of adults to keep those impulses in check. And then there's Charlie, and it doesn't seem like Charlie is kept in check except by like the circumstances of his own poverty. It's not like there's an adult that like is controlling Charlie. It's that poverty has forced him to make certain concessions or like exposed him to that he has responsibility. Maybe that's what it is. He has a responsibility to his family, and that improves him. And so for the whole movie, you're like, okay, well, he is going to be proven to be the pure child, and that's what's going to make him like acceptable to win. But it's very interesting what Wonka says at the end of the movie. He reveals like you get the most behind the curtain with Wonka that you get in the entire movie. And it seems like what he's winding up to tell us is that Charlie is the pure boy, and because he's the pure boy, he gets to be in charge. And he does say that. But what does he want out of a child? He doesn't want to turn the factory over to an adult, because an adult's going to want to do things their own way. What he wants out of a kid is someone who will do what the fuck he tells him to. And that seems like such a weird, like, whoa! Like, right at the end, we're delivered this message. Like in Star Wars, Naboo always has a queen, or it's a 13-year-old girl. Why? Because kids are pure. They know what's right and wrong. You can't juke a 13-year-old kid in a moral way. The very beginning of it was only an accident. The Iranian guy, he hits a dog, and the daughter won't let it go. Kids, they get like a dog with a rag on a moral issue. They know what's right, and you can't really pull the veil over their eyes. That's what you think it's all going to be. But then instead, it's like, no, I just want you to do what I'm telling you to. And that feels like such a weird complication of the message right at the very end.
So do you think it's not that Charlie's good and the rest of the kids are bad, but those kids are their personalities are developed and awful, and Charlie is still like clay that you can mold?
Well, I was thinking, yes, I was thinking of, like, what are the traps that each of these kids that he lays, like, what are the traps that he lays for them?
More Jigsaw shit, being like he has traps.
But specifically, what is the trap for Charlie? Because there's a way in which Charlie's thing feels like happenstance, but it's not. There's no temptation for Charlie. The only temptation that exists for Charlie is the temptation that an adult will say, hey, let's do this. And because he's always going to be a good boy, he's going to go along with what adults say. And so his temptation is not for him, actually. It's for his grandfather who has been bound to bed this entire time. And so he dreams of what? The freedom of movement that comes with flight. His temptation is what leads Charlie into temptation. But it's also what proves to Wonka that Charlie will just do what the fuck he's told. Because that's exactly what he does with Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe says, hey, let's drink some of this stuff. And even though Charlie has, with his own eyes, seen what happens when you drink some of the stuff that you're told not to drink, he just immediately does it because an adult said, hey, this is the thing to do.
It's also a classic grandpa move where you can't burp in front of your parents, but grandpa's going to teach you how to burp. And look at it saves the day.
That's
the power of burping.
I mean, I think you can also say, in terms of, instead of saying it's this person, it's their fault, I think again, getting back to Roald Dahl and his kind of misanthropic worldview, it could just be that everyone sucks. Kids are bad and adults are bad. Everyone is bad. You could walk away from this movie kind of thinking that just about everybody is
and don't we
monstrous.
See, ultimately, my question for a lot of this movie is, what is up with Willy Wonka? And ultimately, isn't that what he's heartsick because he has been failed by people on such an epic scale that he is basically...
Just like Jigsaw. Again, just like Jigsaw. The system has failed him.
He has lost hope.
He's getting older. He's not going to be able to do this forever.
And so, now he has to work outside the system. He has to do, abnormal things or
Charlie,
abnormal.
would you like to play a game?
I'm not going to
be able to do this forever, Charlie.
In order to, get what he wants across, and what he wants is to live forever, right? And so what I want is that name on the factory. I want that to never change. I don't want to have a merger by some other chocolate factory and have it be called Wonka Hershey. And I know that Charlie is never going to even think, let's throw Bucket up there on the factory. He's going to make it say Wonka the entire time.
Yeah. And I mean, what is a bucket? Like, it just, you pour something into it and then the bucket holds that forever, and that's what he wants. He wants to pour himself into something, some vessel.
Let's talk about the gloops. This is one of the... We also need to talk about the first 15 minutes, which is essentially a skit show, a world-building
good one.
Show that, I think really works. I know that they brought in a writer, and that, it's not shocking to me at all that Monty Python wanted in on this, right? But while world-building, one of the things we get is the gloops, and... Is this weird now in 2026 to watch this family who is characterized as being fat so large and hungry that when he's being asked a question with a microphone, his instinct
he bites
is to eat the pop filter off the microphone?
Can I just say, we belong to a very interesting generation where we got the very last of, if you had to have fat characters in something, it was Germans, but just for the very end of our childhoods, basically.
Yeah.
Now you would never have a fat. There's like 3 different Americans in this, and none of them are the fat one. There's no way.
Yeah, I was going to say there's another country that replaced Germany as far as.
Yeah, dude, we are the porky people now.
Right.
We're eating microphones left and right.
The opening of this movie always, when I've watched it as an adult, it's always reminded me of The Simpsons. It's in a way I don't know if Matt Groening or any of the early Simpsons people are fans of this movie, but some of those gags are so Simpsons-esque to
yeah.
me, and the timing of the gags. Like you could replace that news reporter with Kent Brockman.
Oh, yeah.
He serves the same role as Kent Brockman on so many Simpsons episodes of those early years.
They definitely lifted some things. They definitely referenced some things. But Matt, you're onto something here, which is there's a deeper sort of like substructure.
Yeah,
like
and
the timing and the some of like the concepts that it seems like informed the Simpsons so heavily, and that they
like
come
quiet,
right from this
bridled
movie.
chaos. Like it
Yeah.
looks like everything else we know, but there's a thing underneath. Some of them were.
Couldn't
better
you
than
see
others.
like Krabappel doing the like class dismissed? Oh wait, never mind. No, class is still dismissed, and then running out in front of the kids. Like, I mean, that totally.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another one. Or like the scene with the therapist.
Yes.
Extremely, or the scene with the computer. I mean,
Yes.
put Professor Frink right in there and be like, well, this stupid computer won't tell me what I want. Like it's straight up. These are all scenes that could have come from The Simpsons.
The one
No
that I
question.
totally forgot about is the like 2 or 3 minute soap opera that we get of a woman learning
Yes,
that her
dude.
husband has been kidnapped, and that is just
Another-
shot legitimately like a soap opera.
Yeah, and also great gag, and also could be Simpsons.
These are the pound for pound players. Like, this is why we have pound for pound as a category, and I feel like all the small roles are in the running for it here.
I will say, in terms of the gloops, I mentioned earlier my kids are doing this production, and as they started, they sent a note out saying, we are going to try to be, we are not going to depict Augustus as fat. We're not going to shame him for being fat. We're going, he's going to be just, a greedy, obnoxious kid, just like all the other kids. And we're not going to make they just started the show. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to assume we're not going to see like a kid wearing like a, a pillow on. Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, that's another interesting element of the like Wonka plot, is that it feels like it's the goals are very like high flung. Like the goals are about like, controlling yourself. But when you listen to the songs of the Oompa Loompas, like the kind of chorus of the movie, they reveal often a pettiness to his complaints. That like really the complaint about Augustus Gloop is not that he can't control himself around food. It's, I don't like the look of it, right? Like I don't like to see fat people. And when it's Violet
The candy makers,
when it's
don't like
Violet
that,
with
like-
the chewing gum, when they sing the song, it's not you couldn't control yourself around the gum. It was you chew that like a fucking cow all day. Like Wonka, she says something like, that's a bad habit earlier. And Wonka says, I can think of a worse one. Yeah. And what it is just chewing gum, because actually he's just a petty fucking little bitch.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to see fat people, and he doesn't want to see people open their mouths and chew gum. And that's what they're really punished for.
You know what's more horrifying in that scene than her blowing up to the size of a blueberry or whatever? It's that the gum first tastes like roast beef. That's horrifying. Like that is the stuff of nightmares. We're gonna take a break, but when we come back, we're taking a trip to the PopFilter Hall of Fame.
Welcome to the PopFilter Hall of Fame.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. We are in the hallowed halls of the PopFilter Hall of Fame. Matt had to go on sabbatical for a segment, so we're tapping in.
He's going to
his
write another
replacement.
fucking book, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what we need is another singer out in the world. Mike, you were replaced by Matt. We decided to make him our new permanent guy, but you're going to come in and spell him for, like, let's say one segment per pod. Is that cool?
I love that. I live here in the Hallowed Halls, so I'm not going to go away. So I'll be around. So it's nice for me to just show up for a segment. Yeah.
You can make anything sound like a threat, Mike. You have that power.
I'm not going away.
You're going to be dealing with me for a long time.
I feel like that was Nixon, who might get in the Hall of Fame tonight. It's been a while since we've been to these hallowed halls, so let me explain how it works. The PopFilter Hall of Fame is filled with the luminaries that created us, that made us the people that we are. Tina Fey, for instance, multiple time Hall of Fame winner.
She is on there.
That's how good she is. Oh.
There's a lot of people. I don't have time to go through them all. But now is the time that we are going to get anywhere from 0 to 2 people in. We each have a nominee. you must have unanimously be voted in, and we each only get 2 votes. So it's possible that nobody goes in. It's possible that it's 2. Mike, because it's been so long since you've podcasted and you are so excited, let's start with you. Who deserves to be in this Hall of Fame?
So this person wasn't around for our childhoods, but I think the impact they've made on us,
Our dads.
It's our dads collectively. I'd say he's a film daddy, a new film daddy. He makes some of the most interesting movies out there. The hardest I've ever laughed, the most squeamish has ever been in a theater. It is our Greek pal, Yorgos Lanthimos.
And this is somebody that you've taken on as like almost your spirit animal over the last 5 years. You are out there in those streets handing out business cards that just say Yorgos Lanthimos on them with no more
Very
information.
confusing.
And I don't want to be this guy, but since '09, not the last 5 years.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
Oh, 09. More like, oh, damn. When you say funniest moments, what are you talking about?
Look, some people eat spaghetti a specific kind of way, and Yorgos loves to point that out. But it's in fact that people eat spaghetti the same exact way. And maybe a murderous, incestuous trio of siblings do a little dance.
Now, like, when you sit down for, like, let's just say most recently to watch Begonia, are you nervous because of his place in your life? Or are you like, I'm already in hook, line, and sinker, doesn't matter?
Even like his... I have yet to see a full misstep, but even like his his associate films are super interesting. And so I'm not nervous like, oh no, this is my guy, people are going to judge me. I'm nervous like, what is this going to do to my stomach?
Yeah.
And then also when you're talking about him, when you say his last name, do you sing it to the tune of Bailamos? Bailamos!
Yes.
Yeah, well, I hope
Let
that
the
you do
Yorgos take you home. Yeah.
Listen, Emma Stone, let the Yorgos take you home. It'll be
He's trying
fine.
so hard.
Great, that's a pretty good entry. What do we got?
This one does go back to our childhood, Ryan. This actress has always been there for us. When we started talking about the amazing cast that was the 1971 Babies, a great year for babies. So many of those babies grew up to do good things. She was Kelly on Married with Children. She was Swell in Don't Tell Mom, the babysitter's dead. She enjoyed a She enjoyed a second stint in her career. She was Veronica Corningstone in the Ron Burgundy movies, and then I don't hear people talk about this one just quite as much, but there was a show called Dead to Me that she was in with Linda Cardellini, and two faves together being very charming and amazing. She has a book coming out, and unfortunately she's doing really poorly. And she's like kind of like very publicly dealing with having a terrible disease and kind of staring down the barrel of her imminent demise, and trying to do so in a way that makes people happy. People are like, oh man, you got to be like, try to have a stiff upper lip, Christina Applegate. But Christina Applegate has like been there my whole life. She was like literally probably the first woman I ever like had a crush on. And it is sobering to think of her and it's sad to think of her struggling right now. But she has meant so much to us. I think she belongs in our Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, so were you Kelly Bundy over Kelly Kapowski?
Yes, I was a Kelly Bundy, because any woman who every time she enters the room, men up to like 30 years older than her go, woo, made a big impression on a young man.
Which is still what you do to your wife every time she comes in the room.
That is true. Ryan, I realized something recently, which is that I got a TV when I was like 10 years old. I got a TV for my own room, and it had an antenna. And I realized recently that the only station it reliably got was Fox.
Uh-huh.
And like, what a huge, how much that changed my life. Like all I did was watch Fox programming for like 10 years.
The impact it had on you then is the exact opposite of the kind of impact it makes on people who just watch Fox now.
That's true. Yeah. I remember being
crazy.
a kid and The Simpsons would make fun of what a trash network Fox was. And I was like, this is literally all I watch. Don't be hurtful.
all you can watch. Can you imagine, like, man, Butterfly Effect and Sliding Doors, whatnot? If that antenna only got ABC, me and Mike would not be hanging out with you right now.
Yeah,
Like, you would be a
different
shitty
life.
person.
I might have a job, Ryan.
Christina Applegate is a good one. I'm also going to go along the same lines as Greg, of somebody who's just been there in every phase of our lives. Has done so much for the world as we know it. But I'm just going to pick out a couple of areas. One, his job of making change. So if you have a 10, he can give you 2 5s. He can give you a 5 and 5 1s. That's what they do. That is what they do there. Later on, he would go on to say, and I'm just taking from our conversations that we have. What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. I award you, this is the big one, I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. And very recently, he has taken over our conversations again, because the three of us cannot say Jeffrey Epstein, which we say a lot to each other, without saying the New York financier. My nominee is Jim Downey, who, besides giving us all of our vocabulary, is also, a extremely prolific writer that had a huge hand in creating comedy as we know it today.
That is a good one.
That is a good one.
So our nominees are Yorgos Lanthimos, Christina Applegate, and Jim Downey. Gentlemen, take a minute to think. You only have 2 votes. 2 votes max.
Can I get a third?
How much money do you have?
$5.
Yeah.
And Ryan, he was also Sandy Irvine in One Battle After Another.
That is true. He was also the guy in the wheelchair in the Chair. What's the Tim Robinson show? Chair Company?
It's the Chair Company.
Oh, yeah. The Chair Company.
First up is Yorgos. Mike, in or out?
And
Greg?
Oh, man. This is
Talk it
very
out.
rough. Well, okay. 3 strong candidates. Sometimes you bring a candidate and you're like, do I want to be true to my candidate, or do I want to be what is mostly fair? You know what? I'm going to say yes to Yorgos Lanthimos.
And I, unfortunately, am going to have to say out, which means I didn't even have to go to you guys. I could have just said that right away, but
You could have, and it would have helped me out a lot.
I like the drama. Greg, we're going to go to you with Christina Applegate.
I'm a yes for Christina Applegate.
Mike?
yes.
And I am a yes. Christina Applegate is in the PopFilter Hall of Fame.
Look,
This
a
is tense.
rainbow. Do me on it.
And I think we know how this goes, but Mike, do you have any votes left?
I'm out of votes. I asked for some in the beginning and was denied. I wish I had more.
Greg, and you are also out of votes.
I am, but if there was a pound for pound section in the Hall of Fame, he would be a shoo-in for it. And I think it's a good candidate. I think he should be brought back, but I am out of votes.
And I will vote yes for no reason. It's like I'm voting third party here. Jim Downey and Yorgos, better luck next time in the next season. But Christina Applegate, mostly because of Don't Tell Mom, I'm going to be honest. You are in
And
the
the sweetest
PopFilter
thing.
Hall of Fame.
Dishes are done, man.
The dishes are done indeed. When we come back, more about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. All right, gentlemen, let's get back to the movie. Let's talk about how the movie portrays capitalism, labor, and ownership. Is Wonka a benevolent innovator, a manipulative employer? A third thing I could not think of. What do we think of this movie, especially watching it today? There's stuff we have to deal with, right?
Yeah, it feels like this has to be brought up. My question is it just a critique of capitalism, or like what does it suggest? Like, is there a system that's better than capitalism, and where does the everlasting gobstopper fit into it? Because it seems like Wonka develops the ultimate anti-capitalist product, And I know he's probably just sole owner of his company, but imagine there's like a board on his company. Imagine he has shareholders.
I mean,
and he
Apple
invents this thing.
like inventing a phone that will never have forced obsolescence. Like that's impossible.
Yeah.
And he even says that it's for kids with very little money. He's not even saying like, I'm going to charge $1 million for this and only the Verucas of the world. Like he specifically says this is a cheap candy that will last forever.
But at the same time, he does own a factory. And I do feel like we start off with a bunch of kids running to a candy store and being so excited about the new Willy Wonka products.
He also fired his entire staff and replaced them with Oompa Loompas who he apparently never allows to leave because no one's ever seen them until the kids go into the factory. Like that's the mystery in the beginning is how is he making the chocolate because he fired all the workers.
He fired everyone.
He's worried about the spies.
Yeah. Okay. He fired everyone in this poor ass town. So now if there's more unemployment, or for all we know, he created the poor town. You know, it's almost like Detroit with all the car companies leaving. He fired how many people must have been working there, and now he's got 10 actors who he said he'll pay in cocoa beans. That's from the book. He says, "Come with me, and you'll never want for cocoa beans again." That doesn't feel.
Is that what a bean feast is?
Maybe
like a cocoa bean feast.
I think there's another really interesting point to discuss in this context, which is that the movie only exists because of capitalism, because it was produced by the Quaker Oat Company as a way to promote, like we were, I think Greg mentioned earlier, the change of titles from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The reason they did that was because Mel Stewart and his partner, you know, when they had the idea to make the movie based on the book, they took it to Quaker, or they were working already doing something for Quaker, like they were doing a TV show that they were sponsoring. And they learned that they were working on they wanted to get into like the chocolate business. And they said, well, we have the perfect thing for you. You should make this movie with us, and we'll use it to launch actual Wonka candies. And so the reason that it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is because one of the things they sold was a Wonka bar. And so they wanted Wonka in the title. And so in a way, this movie is like the ultimate product placement, one of the most grotesque, least artistic aspects of the movie business. And one of the things that when I see it in a lot of movies, I'm distracted, I'm annoyed, I'm sometimes like outright repulsed.
Yeah.
And here, I've said already, this is one of my most watched movies, one of my most beloved movies. And yet, it owes at least some, if not all of its existence, to the selling of, Wonka chocolates in the real world, which was not a thing before this movie. The book existed, but the idea of taking the concept of Willy Wonka and putting it into the real world, our world, and into real stores did not exist before the movie. And the movie's success, I'm sure, has helped all of those products still exist.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I don't think they sell like Wonka chocolate bars right now.
I remember more as a kid than I see them now. Like I don't really see those.
That's
bars
just because you
anymore.
ate more candy as a kid.
That's true.
I do think if you go to the store right now, you'll see several Wonka products. Like it won't be like in a Wonka section, but like they'll be Wonka branded.
They don't. Some of the things. So ironically, because I was looking this up because I was kind of curious about this. Look, Wonka. Say what you will about his child murder philosophy, but the guy knew what he was talking about this factory, and that if he didn't pass it on to the right person, it would fall out of his hands. The real world Wonka company has been sold multiple times, not to a child, and it's now owned by the Ferrero Rocher company.
Of course.
And they do still sell some of the products, but they don't sell like a Willy Wonka bar. Maybe because, maybe they brought some stuff back when the Timothée Chalamet movie came out. But there are products that were Wonka products that
Yeah.
do still exist. Like Nerds
Yeah.
that's a Willy Wonka candy. Now,
And
it's not from the
Gobstoppers,
books.
you can buy
And
Gobstoppers.
Gobstoppers,
you can
yeah.
still buy Everlasting Gobstoppers.
They don't
So-
look like all those lines
No.
attached like that.
No.
That's a strange looking candy. It reminds me of our childhood where like the cart chasing the horse, the He-Man TV show was created because it was cheaper than making commercials.
Right. I was
That-
thinking of G.I. Joe, like
Right.
same thing.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, the cartoon, was created specifically to sell toys, and the
And it
comic
worked.
book also. And it worked.
Ferrero Rocher is that candy that like is your grandma says is too expensive.
Yes.
Like that's for the adults. Why don't you have one of those little weird strawberry? Remember those little strawberry candies?
I do think there's another way to read this movie where it's not at all a critique of capitalism, but it's almost like it's a critique of the greedy guts capitalism. I think it dreams of a world in which capitalism could just restrain itself a little bit and just like I think the perfect
Like
image
no
of
boards, no stocks.
or find some way to function in a slightly attenuated growth environment so that it doesn't have to be hyper growth that is unsustainable and then burns itself out, right? And it's a dream, right? And I think it's in a way, it's even like kind of like an Ayn Randian dream of like the perfect capitalist, this man who is like so amazing that he is almost supernatural and that everyone around him just looks to like constrain him when really like things should be given to him because his greatness should just be sort of allowed to flourish, but the world doesn't like accommodate that really.
It's funny that those Ayn Randian people always also, in addition to being great, stumble upon an island full of people that they can turn into indentured servants. Like,
And that's
that
the
also
other
helps.
thing. Like his whole system is based on, well, these people like being my slaves. And there's nothing in the movie that indicates that that's not true, but it's not a part of the human experience that any group of people just really likes to work for beans from a rich man
Even
who
if
has
it's
the
a
ability.
feast.
Yeah.
It's funny.
There are saying all these things, there are subversive elements of this
Sure.
movie from that perspective. You know, yes, some of the Oompa Loompa songs are maybe less. Maybe they're taking some cheap shots at these children, but the general idea is like you should not eat too much candy. You
Yeah.
need to, it's not exactly saying eat as much candy as you can, and the hero is the one who is essentially, as you were saying, like he's the only one who can't be tempted. It's really only that he just wants to please his grandfather that he goes along even with the one bad thing that he does.
These kids and these capitalists need the same thing, which is if they could just control themselves a little bit. That like there is a bounty. There is so much. There's enough for everybody and it's sweet. The problem is when we become greedy guts and literally we do the Veruca Salt thing, right? I imagine there's some version of this scene where she tries to do something that almost kills the goose that lays the golden egg and that causes her downfall. It doesn't quite amount to that in the scene, but right, that's what that scene is. There is the golden egg and her dad is also a factory owner. And if they could just like be happy with the goose that lays the golden egg, that would be sufficient. But that's not sufficient to them because that's never sufficient because we have this weird strain in capitalism where people take it too far and just want to like expand until they are absolutely like uncontrollable.
It's illegal to not at this point. Like it's if you are not, making your company, you're making your stockholders, shareholders more money than, or you're making decisions that would go against that. That is illegal.
Yeah,
So-
like if he had shareholders and he invented something like the everlasting gobstopper, he would be thrown out of his company because it'd be
Yeah.
like, we can't sell this product. It's going to destroy us.
I didn't know that was possible until it happened to Norman Osborn in the first Spider-Man movie. He just got thrown off his board. I thought that was
I didn't
wild.
know it was possible until when I was a kid. Carl Karcher, the guy that founded Carl's Jr., was fired from Carl's Jr.
But the junior, they kept the junior. Bow. It is time for speed round. Answer these questions as quickly as possible. Maybe you get a point. If Charlie's going to run a candy company, I think he needs a more fun name, similar to Willy Wonka. I humbly submit Chucky Buckets. I'll take my
Chucky
answer off there.
Buckets. Chucky Bucks.
That feels like
Get it?
the worst guy of a group of dudes in one of the movies that Matt wrote about.
Dude, if
Chucky Buckets wears like a stupid hat and he's like always saying slightly racist things.
If you're going to try to pledge a fraternity and you get assigned to Chucky Buckets, just take a semester off, man. You need a gap year.
Let's talk about Willy Wonka as an archetype. I don't know if he got drafted in our 1971 action figure draft, but do you guys see him as covering the trickster, the wizard? Is he a mad scientist? Is he a gatekeeper? I remember reading an essay in college about how this exactly lines up with the King Arthur myth, and like it's Merlin sort of teaching, like he's the only one, quote unquote, that can get the golden ticket or the sword, and is Merlin. Do you guys see him as that, if we're looking at overall literature, as the mentor wizard, or is he closer like Loki or something satanic?
I see him as Jigsaw. The more we've talked tonight, the more I'm convinced that James Wan and Lee Wannell, they owe Mel Stewart a fee, because they've clearly stolen Willy Wonka and put and give him a voice change, and that's it.
I'm only being a little.
He's a figure of malevolence.
I'm being only a little tongue in cheek here when I say that I conceptualize him as an angel who got stuck on Earth and tried to do the best job that he possibly could. By like bringing joy the only way he knew how to, but even the process of trying to bring that joy to people because people are so fallen caused him to basically become completely embittered and essentially insane.
That's pretty good. The other movie that I thought of, because you have to, is what if the wizard helped them along the journey, like he was along with them, and that way he could control stuff and make judgment calls for the whole time, like as if the wizard sort of, who was a trickster and like a liar, huckster, sad that he missed out on most of the fun of the movie. So he puts himself at the beginning.
You know why he has a ton of that feeling, Ryan? Because he's been to places nobody has ever even heard of, and he's seen like fruits that nobody else has ever heard of. It's like this dude comes from somewhere else. Like he's like came from another dimension, perhaps a new galaxy.
If this movie was real, Willy Wonka would be in the Epstein files, yes? Like he's too rich. He went on that plane, right? Can we all agree?
Dude, he seems very interested in kids. I'm just going to say that.
Okay. On that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's give this movie some awards. This movie was nominated for one Oscar. It lost. It was nominated to Fiddler in the Roof. It was nominated for Best Music, in parentheses, Scoring, Adaptation, and Original Song Score. I thought it would be nominated for Best Song. It's a weird movie. The second half has all the classics. The first half doesn't. I think the first song in the movie became like a standard. Like people would sing Mr. Candyman, or the Candyman can.
Sammy was a huge hit for Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah. And then the back half has Pure Imagination. It has all the Oompa Loompa songs. Pure Imagination, I think, is an all-timer.
Yeah.
Cheer Up Charlie, not so much. But let's start there. Matt, we'll start with you. What is the music moment to you of this movie?
I mean, one that you didn't mention that I really like is from the earlier in the movie is I've Got a Golden Ticket. I think that's a really great scene. I always liked that scene as a kid. It's fun because I always liked, as a goofy little kid, I always liked all of the physical comedy with Grandpa Joe. I think Jack Albertson is as the actor, falling, him falling out of bed, and he hasn't gotten out of bed for years,
40 years, I think.
Something,
4 decades.
Yeah, I mean, this movie really gave me some wrong ideas about muscle atrophy. But,
yes, for sure.
But other than that, I do love that sequence, and I love them dancing together in that tiny, dancing around the house, and it's a lovely song. In general, I think yet another part of this movie that's so interesting and like kind of quirkily lovable about it is that, again, the movie is at times so dark and misanthropic, and Wonka is a murderer, and he's terrifying, and yet almost all of the songs, except maybe the Oompa Loompa songs, are sweet and kind of, like they make you kind of wistful. And this song is I've Got a Golden Ticket, and it is about, just I never thought I had a chance, and now I've got a chance, and golly gee whiz, this is so exciting. And a lot of the songs have that energy. Even, you were making fun of Cheer Up Charlie before. It's another very sweet song. Maybe it's too sweet, but hey, it's a movie about candy. It should be sweet too. So anyway, that would be my pick. My kind of like underrated song of the movie. Because I mean, there's obviously some great ones that you mentioned before, but I'm gonna go with "I've Got a Golden Ticket."
I think my issue with Cheer Up Charlie, and I'm sorry, Greg, if this is your nominee, but he just doesn't do anything with it. Like, especially with a family film, we need some stuff to watch, and it gets like real maudlin and slow there. Greg, what's the musical moment to you?
I'm gonna go with Pure Imagination. That's just the song that I think works in and out of the movie, and it's just such a like magical moment of the movie. It's for kid Greg. It's like kind of where the movie starts. That's basically one of the first things that I would actually reliably pay attention to. I sing it all the time. And it's just like so much wonder and excitement in it.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the obvious choice, but I'm going to give that one to Greg. Greg, we'll start with you with fashion choice.
Okay, wow. I don't want to do something obvious here, but I'm just going to say the thing that always really turns my head, those Wonka Vision suits with like the orange stripe down the shoulder, it almost recalls like Bruce Lee's like yellow and black tracksuit. It's kind of like that, but in white and orange. And then they have something that like these goggles that like have the slits in them for like just so you only can like a little bit of light in. But that became like a big fashion thing for a while. Very cool goggles, very cool suit. I'm going Wonka Vision.
I want to say Rocksteady or Bebop.
Yeah.
Has those same. I can't
It
remember
became
which
part
one.
of the cyberpunk aesthetic.
Right, yeah.
After this, you would see like cyberpunk hooligans somebody would always have the low.
Oh, Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all of those gang members.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you got for fashion choice?
That was my pick. I had the exact same
Dope.
thing. I didn't want to pick the obvious, Gene Wilder.
Wonka's
outfit.
ensemble. Yeah, somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great look, and it's the kind of thing where they gave him such a distinctive look. It's one of those outfits that's a great Halloween costume because if you see someone walking down the street with the purple coat and the brown pants and the hat, you know immediately who it is, which is, that's a mark of a pretty good costume. But yeah, I thought the same thing today when I was watching it. Like, man, these jumpsuits are rocking with the orange stripe. I also thought of Bruce Lee. I had the same thought. And I do love in that scene that even though everyone's wearing them, Wonka is still wearing his top hat on his white suit. And he's even still wearing it at the jaunty angle, which I thought is a very funny visual joke.
I think that's so important for characters and in real life. Like when everybody's dressed the same, what are you going to add that's just your thing?
You got to accessorize.
Matt, let's go to you for cringiest moment. This movie's got a couple.
So for me, I was debating this, and I decided to, I don't know if this is a moment, but what I wrote down here was the staggering number of comb-overs that almost every male member of the cast, including Charlie in a way,
Yes.
What is up with that kid's hair?
Is that they have a comb-over. And like Gene Wilder in this movie, he's not really balding, I don't think, but his hair is... part of it I just think is characterization of Wonka as this weirdo, that he has this crazy wild hair. The hair kind of is like the embodiment of his manic, insane personality. But there are these scenes where there are three men on screen and they all look like there's a fan blowing at the side of their head. And it's just pushing all the hair to the side. It's just very unflattering, very weird looking. And it's just, that's one thing that, if I know they have remade this movie once and then they made a prequel a couple of years ago. You would never, ever see this many men in a movie, and children, including Charlie, with these hideous, frizzy, awful comb-overs. So that's my pick.
Based on what I've learned about people from the past, all of these adults were like 28 years old and just look like this. Greg, what do you got for cringiest moment?
You can tell they're all smokers. If you look at their teeth, like they all have terrible teeth, but they're like that beige orange that smoker teeth become. So you can tell they're all hitting those coffin nails pretty hard.
I'm going to cover my mouth for the rest of this recording, but continue, please.
I'm gonna go with something that freaked me out so much as a little kid. that like it was like not a scary moment, but it just freaked me out. And it was 4 adult people in one bed, and they've all been there for 20 years. I can't begin to tell you like how disturbing this was to me as a kid, for whom 20 years was like more time than I could easily imagine, and 8 hours in bed was like so much that I could hardly take it. There was something about the fact that they were just in bed for so long. 2 of them never even speak. They're like their feet are kind of touching. Like, it's just everything about it really always used to bother me, and I could still feel that energy watching it this time.
Yeah, Greg, the bed thing is so interesting because it freaked me out as a kid. And then I realized that I had not read any Dahl yet. And like that is the most remaining thing of this movie. If you read a lot of Roald Dahl, you're like, oh, of course, 4 grandparents in a bed. That's just the kind of wild thing he does, you know? I am going to give that one to Matt, though. Those comb overs, yeah, that was a lot.
When a child has a comb over, what is going on?
Well, they're too poor to not comb over.
He can't afford a comb. Or I guess he can. He can because he's combed it over. Maybe he shouldn't have one.
If we're renting that comb, you're going to be using it, Charles.
God. And then there's lice issues. Let's get to recommendation. I'm going to go first. There's so much stuff that we've talked about that this movie reminds you of that like they couldn't exist. I don't know if my recommendation counts enough as like a sleeper, but I have to bring it up just in case we have younger listeners who do not know the power, the otherworldliness, the supernatural. It's like our world, but it's not power of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And it's the same thing of going from point A to point B on a journey, and just now we get to do whatever we want, and we get to show the weirdness of all these creators. I think it's a nearly perfect movie. And even though people our age have absolutely seen it and grew up on it and have, you know, I'm sure you two are like me and modeled their personality around it. Get out there, guys, and watch it. It is truly amazing. And yes, that we can all see that chain coming up from underneath the bike where it's supposed to be held. Matt, what do you got?
My recommendation, we actually mentioned it already. I was really thinking about Wonka candies, and one thing I did was one of the times I showed it to my kids was I had everlasting gobstoppers. I bought some, and it's a fun. So that's my recommendation: is like show the movie to your kids, and afterwards, give them everlasting gobstoppers. I think it's an underrated candy. Now, you will have to explain why it doesn't look like the movie. That is kind of a bummer. Yeah. Because in the movie, it is this like they look like stalactites or something. Yeah. You know, like it looks like some of these weird rock formations, and in reality, they're just, you know, these little circular colored candies that when you suck on them, they slowly dissolve. And of course, the fact that they do slowly get smaller is also going to be a disappointment. But I will say we did have fun. Like, here they are, and yeah, yes, they don't look like it, and yes, they don't last forever. But it is fun. And you're giving your children candy; they're going to be happy. It doesn't really phase them too much that they're not forever. I think these are technically, I don't know if it says Wonka on the label now, but sweet tart ropes. I don't know if you've ever had those. They are technically Wonka candies because sweethearts, I can't say it, but those are actually Wonka branded candies. The ropes, very good. Highly underrated candy, in my opinion.
Yeah, hey, Violet's dad, throw some other candy on that candy rope, buddy. What are you doing when it's just plain like that?
Yeah, you don't. That's right. Yeah, maybe they were even inspired by the movie. I don't know, but the cherry ones, oh man, I could house a whole bag of those if I'm not careful, and then I'll get scolded by Gene Wilder's ghost or something.
Oh God, that fucking ghost. Leave me alone. Greg, what do you got? What do you want to recommend?
I try not to do this too much on this show, but I can't watch this movie without seeing it through the lens of not like every parody, not like every send up of it. I know it's had a big cultural footprint, so there's been a lot of versions of things. But very specifically for me, when I watch this, I see it through the lens of the Futurama episode from season 2 called Fry and the Slurm Factory.
This time I party alone.
That is the original party slug who dies from partying too hard, I believe, Ryan. Slurms Mackenzie, I think his name is, or something like that. It has one of the funniest lines in comedy. I'm gonna say, Matt, if you want to put this in your book, it's not a movie of the 2000s, but it is a TV show from 1999. Instead of Oompa Loompas, the Slurm Factory has Grunkalunkas. And when the professor sees one, he says, "What are those horrible creatures?" And someone says, "Those are the Grunkalunkas." And he says, "Tell them I hate them." And I am not exaggerating when I say that I think of this line several times.
It's probably the most quoted line in my house between me and my wife. If either one of us asks, "What is that?"
What is
when
that?
we get the answer, you say, "Well, tell them I hate them."
Tell them I hate them. It's such a good episode. It's like Futurama is a great show, but I think this is maybe the best episode of it, and a loving, caring tribute to an excellent movie.
Agreed. All right, guys. This is a serious one for us, Matt. I don't know if you've ever seen another Mel Stewart movie, but we're gonna try and pick director's signature moment. We'll start with you, Matt. What is the melliest, Stewartiest part of this movie?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer because I have not seen any of his other movies, and I was thinking about this when you asked, and it's like, are there any other directors that have made a movie that I love as much as I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where it is the only movie of theirs that I have seen? I don't think there is. So yeah, it's hard to define a signature moment, and I know that his background was mostly in documentaries, so I'm not sure if anything in this movie really represents his signature style, because it is so fanciful and fantastical and colorful and artificial in some ways. But for me, I guess, like, if I had to pick a signature moment in the movie, like, I think I would probably pick pure imagination. And specifically, there's something about the end of the song when Gene Wilder takes the cup and he drinks from the cup and then he bites the cup. Something about that has, I'm like, that moment, as much as Gene Wilder demanded the intro where he kind of falls and surprises you by doing the beautiful somersault. Something about the gesture of, I think the cup is even pulled off of a plant of some kind. So it's like this flower that has chocolate or some sort of sweet liquid inside, but also the cup is edible. Something about that whole sequence of movements happening in the middle of this amazing set designed room while we're listening to this beautiful song. That's a very powerful moment to me that I guess, without having ever seen another Mel Stewart movie, I guess that would be my pick.
It's a good moment, and luckily, right when he picks the cup, there's that very old Oompa Loompa who says, "You chose wisely," and so Willy Wonka gets to survive. But yeah, the biting of the cup is such a much more subtle version of the somersault, because it's yet again proof you guys have no idea what's going to happen in any given second. Greg, what do you got?
Not to gas up Matt's moment, but I also have to say, like, you can see the world weariness in Wonka in that moment, in a way that I think the somersault is trying to articulate something in a very in-your-face way that is better articulated in a subtle way, which is just that this guy is kind of like, I don't know, just like so tired of everything. I'm going to go with I'm going to build an argument around this. I'm going to say the pan across the factory when they initially first see the factory. And my reasoning for it is...
Which is almost exactly like Dorothy opening the door.
Yeah. He mostly stayed out of the way in this movie. He just, there's going to be a lot of whimsy and there's going to be a lot of magic. And so I'm just going to point the camera at it. And I just think this, like, simple pan across the factory, just like, yeah, dude, they made this thing look so cool. Let me just give you, like, every inch of it. And then, but I'm not going to, like, try to, like, I don't know, dazzle you with a crane shot or something like that. He's just in there to, like, capture the images. And I think there's a certain style to just staying out of the way and letting other parts of the movie sing, and I think that's a time where you really see it. The audio's banging right there, the set is looking great, the characters are all arrayed in front of the viewer, and you just, like, sort of take it all in. And they've done such a good job up to this moment of everything being really closed in, including, like, that elevator that, like, is so small they all get packed into it, that when you have that freedom of the vista, it really, you kind of, like, feel that.
those are both great picks. The obvious correct answer is when the Oompa Loompa lyrics appear on the screen with that incredible 1971 graphics, which I didn't know at the time, but was turning me into a lifelong karaoke guy. Um, and I assume that Mel Stewart puts those on all of his documentaries, the same thing. But I'm going to, by the slightest of margins, I'm going to give that one to Matt. Just that cut bite really sums up the movie. Greg, we'll start with you. Pound for pound performance. There's a lot of heavy hitters here with a minute to shine. Which way are you going to go?
I'm going with Mr. Turkentine. David Batley is the name of the actor. Not just because he's funny, but he is, but also because like I feel like he captures the Roald Dahl energy perfectly, which is just like deeply flawed adult, but it's also kind of charming in a way because it's like, well, he's just kind of like a malformed kid, and so we can't really hate him, but everything he's saying is absurd, and he just like adults seem so weird when you're a kid, and the Roald Dahl really captures that, like how unusual adults come off to kids in a way that's not like pandering to children, but in a way that just I think like really actually speaks directly to them.
Did the teacher, right?
The teacher, yeah.
Did the teacher's 3 scenes single-handedly create Steve Coogan?
Dude, like I kept like you do like a triple take because he's got like is this his dad or something? He recalls him so fully.
That's a good one. Matt, who you got?
Well, I just want to say my favorite thing about the teacher is that I think he, he's teaching math through the Wonka contest. And how many Wonka bars did you eat? How many did you eat? And then when he gets to Charlie, he's like, I got 2. And he's like, 200 Wonka bars. And then he's like, no, I had 2. And he's like, oh, I can't figure that out. And he's like, you're the math teacher. You can't. Another amazing joke that, the math teacher can't figure out the math. And he's like, so I'm just going to make it 200 because that's easier.
That's easier. Also, you can see the kids look at him in the class and they're like, I knew you were poor, buddy, but 2? That's so poor.
Gotta keep up with those Joneses.
My favorite performance in the movie, I mean, again, like Gene Wilder obviously is incredible in this movie, but the one that I think is the other choice that is that I is worth going with here is Julie Dawn Cole as Veruca Salt. I do think that she really is like maybe the greatest spoiled brat in movie history, just untoppable. I love her song. She has a good voice, but also like when she sings in that song, she's got like, she somehow manages to be very tuneful, but also like shrill and annoying sounding. Like somehow her voice sounds sweet and disgusting at the same time. And, like the, I want a new Oompa Loompa now. Like that is like one of those things that is quoted by people who haven't seen Willy Wonka in years, have never seen Willy Wonka. Like it's just the way she says these things, just absolutely iconic, to use a word that is overused. I mean, she really is, I think. And I think it's all the more evident when you go see the Tim Burton one, and a lot of the characters in that movie are very similar to the Mel Stewart one, and they went in a slightly different direction with Veruca. And I always, whenever I watch it, which I have seen a couple times now because I have watched it with my kids as well, it's like it was almost like we can't possibly like out Veruca, the original Veruca. We have to do something else. And so they made her kind of, she's not I don't have the name of that actress, the child actress who plays her in the Burton one. She's not bad, but she's doing a different thing. It was like they knew they couldn't touch the original Veruca. It was just so perfect. They had her be more of kind of like a killing you with kindness kind of thing, where she's just, she wants and wants and wants, but she says it in more of a daddy. I want a pony now. Like she has a very different kind of.
The Veruca in this one reminds me of like an effective wrestling heel, like a bad guy in wrestling, where when they're so good at making everybody upset that people like almost start liking them because they're so good at playing the baddie. And like,
Joffrey.
Yeah, she's so awful that like it comes all the way back around to like, well, she's really good at being this awful.
And in the sequel, she would turn face, and she would she would destroy Wonka, and you would be like on her side because you would realize just how horrible he is.
Based on what I read, for everything that it says, she did grow up to be a lovely person, and all 5 of the kids did, just by getting not out of the getting out of the starlight, maybe, or the spotlight, maybe that shows how good of people they are. And I wonder if the lessons learned from this movie, they were like, oh, we can't be like this. It's like it's my Jenna Maroney theory of how like Jane Krakowski could never be a diva on set because then she'd be acting like Jenna Maroney, so she had to be perfect all the time. Those are both great. I'm gonna give that one to Greg because I've also been a teacher, and that is what most teachers are like. I am going to total up these points. When we come back, I will announce the winner, and we'll discuss Willy Wonka's future in this bracket. This is, believe it or not, our first Gene Wilder movie. It is our first Mel Stewart movie. So I kind of want to talk about what we think this will get nominated for. I think the most obvious one is Best Actor. Here's our potential Best Actor lineup. Warren Beatty, Al Pacino, Malcolm McDowell, Gene Hackman, and Dustin Hoffman. Can Gene Wilder crack that?
I think yes, because of the way the voting works. Because you can not be in somebody's top ranks, but like be close enough to the top ranks in enough of them to where the vagaries of the other people ranking like kind of like gets them in. And I think because there's going to be that like burst of like almost like joy, you know, when you think of Gene Wilder and this role, you think of that like, I don't know, synergy there. And I think it just sparks joy.
Matt, is it category fraud to put in our awards that we're going to have at the end of the season, Gene Wilder in Best Supporting Actor?
Yes.
Because his name's on the billboard?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think he is. I mean, in terms, if we just piled up the number of lines he has, he's got his name is in the title. He has the most famous song. He's in. I mean, yes, he's not in the first part of the movie, but once he's on screen, he's on screen for every single scene.
He's the most
I would think of.
Yeah.
Yes, I would think of him as if I was putting him in a category for this movie, I would put him in Best Actor.
All right. I think he's going to make it. I think one of those guys will fall out because they're all so outwardly dirty and mean, and he at least hides it a little bit. Greg, an incredible performance tonight with 60 points. I have a record this season. I had a good time listening to you guys talk, so I scored a bunch. It is lower than Matt's score of 64. And Greg, do you think that's because you have not written a book before?
I think it's because I totally screwed up on the Monty Python guys, and every time Matt would say one of their names, I would just go, "Oh yeah, oh yeah," but you don't get any points for going, "Oh yeah." You had to say the names.
Matt, I think you won because you had an incredible performance, not what Greg said.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I was fantastic.
Matt, before we get out of here, can you tell us where to find everything that is you?
Yeah, sure. I am writing for ScreenCrush.com. That's the website I work for. I'm there every day. If you are interested in my book, Funny Business, the new book or the old book, you can find those at links where to buy them at my website, which is matt-singer.net. There's links there that'll take you. Those are both books that are published by Putnam, which is part of Penguin Random House. So if you go there to my website, you'll find the links to Penguin's website where you can kind of find wherever you want to buy it. If you want to buy it from Amazon or from Barnes and Noble or anywhere else, like, they have links there. So you can, you don't have to, you can pick wherever you would like to pre-order it. I think you can pre-order there's going to be a hardcover, there's going to be an ebook, and there is going to be an audio book as well. So however you would like to get it. And that comes out, I believe, on October 6th, I want to say, is when it will actually be available.
And that's to say nothing of course, From Amazing to Spectacular, a book that I own, and my daughter, who is named after Spider-Man, will let me read to her when she knows that this is what I need right now, is to read to you from this book. So I appreciate my daughter and Matt, I guess, for writing that as well. Matt, thank you so much for being here. So excited to read the book. Hopefully you can come back maybe after all the press junkets, ask you the exact same questions. You can come back and talk about something else.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And Greg, of course, thank you for being here and allowing Matt to win by your poor performance. For Greg, for Matt and for our missing Mike, my name is Ryan, and please keep watching those movies. Goofy, tell them how they did.
The perfect